Hey guys, my name is Leah Cook, and I'm with my business is Sandpaper and Wax Design. I am an artist. I own business, and I am an artist in resident for Amy Howard. So I'm glad you're here to join me today. We have a lot to cover, so I'm going to get started. Hopefully, we have some folks join in soon. All right, so. Today, we are going to talk about using Amy Howard's new product, the Echo Powder. I've been obviously playing a lot with plasters and different mixes, and this stuff's really neat. So we're going to talk about this today. We're going to go over some basic stuff, some stuff I've learned and made mistakes, and hopefully you guys won't make the same mistakes. Hey, hi Zoe. Hey Becky. I'm so glad you guys could join us. Hey Patricia. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So what I'm going to show you, we are going to cast this. I can't replicate this myself. I can't, but I can cast it. And so we're going to talk about putting this panel onto wood. So what it is, the piece that I'm working on, if you don't know, it's a Victorian sideboard that is going to be made into a kitchen island. And on one side, it's beautifully ornately done. And the other side, it's functional. It's the working side. My carpenter added drawers, doors. It's going to be so awesome. But I need the back to look like the front. So it kind of is a cohesive, very aesthetically pleasing. So in order for me to transform this piece, I needed to create these decorative pieces to go on to just the plain wood. And I will show you that right here. And it is just, this is a door. Nothing spectacular. It's just, as you can see, it's laminate wood, which you'd see in regular kitchen cabinets. And so it's all ready to go. It was all put together by my carpenter. And so now I'm gonna show you how to create this process and add the detail onto furniture, not worry about it having to pop off, break, and just transform it into something beautiful. So I tested a bunch of molds. As you can see, this is a lot of mold, and it would have cost me a small fortune to have purchased all that mold putty. So I made my own molds using silicone, 100% silicone, and formed it over the carved pieces. And it was trial and error. This is a great mold, but it has, as you can see, it's too flexible. It's not going to hold anything. And the details were lost. And it took me a couple of tries to really get this down. This is a lot of material. So what I did find was that using 100% silicone here, and I'm going to show you how to do that. It's really neat. And I'm going to show you how to pour the mold, the best way to get all the detail into all the crevices. And I'm going to show you how to actually strengthen your mold. And especially when you're having to do big pieces, how to add filler, how to strengthen it, and how to, and a lot of concern is to how to adhere the piece to the actual wood, because as you know, plaster and wood, paint, it will pop off. So I'm so excited to be here. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to turn you guys down so you can see what I'm doing. It's messy. Everything I do is messy, but I promise it'll be fun. And if you have any questions, please, by all means, post them down in the comments and I will try to get to them. I'm so glad to be here with you. I missed you last month. So here we go, guys. I'm going to turn you down so you can see what I'm doing. So we're going to start. Hold on. Thanks for bearing with me. Shaking everywhere. Okay, so I'm going to move this door out of the way for right now. Here, I have a bowl of Dawn dish soap, nothing spectacular. I am a brand person. So if I promo a brand or like and I love Amy's paints, there's a reason because it is quality. All right, so I've cut the top off with my caulk gun. I've punctured the inner. This bowl is full of cool water and soap. And now we're going to go ahead and create our first mold. And I'll show you what I'm doing here. I'm only going to make a section. It's a lot. I've gone through many tubes of this. And if you buy in bulk, you get a discount. So that's always good too. All right. So we're just going to do a really small one to start. So silicone is non-toxic as long as you're not putting it in your mouth. So we're here. I am creating. So with this soapy water and the water, it takes out the adhesive property. So you don't want it to get too non-sticky, but you also don't want it too sticky that it's going to wreck your wood or whatever you're casting. So here we're just, and if it gets on your hands, the best way to get it off is rubbing alcohol. And that won't hurt your skin either. So if you have to make lots of molds, lots of castings, this is the way to go. I mean, I have bought a bunch of different, I've tried so many different types. I've used liquid silicone thickening agent, and it just wasn't stiff enough. I do have about 10 pounds of alginate coming after speaking with my dentist, but I'm going to use that for more detailed, way more detailed on the front, and I'll show you guys that. All right, so here's your putty. The more you play with it, the less adhesive it's going to be. We still want it to have some adhesive property. So I'm going to just set that aside. And here's my rubbing alcohol to get this off my hands. Clean your hands up. It would help if the bottle was open. All right. All right, so I'm going to move this to the side really quick. I'm going to pull our original panel back up. Before you cast anything, you need to have some kind of mold release agent, or in this case, this is already painted. So I made this. I had not known that this was going to happen with this piece. Always take notes of what you're painting because you might have to paint it again. And I understand that when you have to do some castings like this. So from here, I have already applied Amy Howard's My Drone Beeswax. I'm just specifically going to cast this piece right here. And so you want to apply the wax, let it come to tack, and then apply another round of wax again. And you can see I have tested this poor panel many times. You got blue in there from a different type. So we're going to go ahead and you're going to take your putty mix. And, if it's still really sticky, add some more soap. Mesh it around quite a bit more if you need to. And then you're going to apply this. You can also add alcohol to the to your putty mix too. What that does is it forces the water to dry faster. As you guys know, rubbing alcohol speeds up drying time. And yeah, so rubbing alcohol if you're having some issues. But here we go. So you're going to go ahead. You're going to apply this over, push it into all the crevices. I'm just smoothing it out. So for a typical piece this size, it took me 2 big full tubes to go ahead and cast. So you'll cast it. You don't want to see any of your mold or any of the piece that you're casting. So you're just applying it over. And obviously I didn't make enough for this one, but just kind of showing you, just smoothing it out. Make sure you press it down enough so it gets all the detail of your piece. Hopefully you have applied waxed very well so it won't stick to it. And then I'm going to show you is the mold I created. So I did have a little bit of problems. I didn't push it down enough. So if you guys have issues with your mold, you can come back with this putty and patch up little areas that you might have had some faux pas with. So as you can see, this is one I made with this exact mold and did not patch it yet. And this is the one that I have patched. You can see right here, that's the one I have patched. So you can see, you know, he's got a little ding on his chin. His nose didn't come out great. He's got just a little bit of issues, but that can all be easily repaired. Not a problem. So, oh, guys, so this stuff is such a game changer. I'm going to show you the difference of casting with regular POP or casting, because in order to compare something, you have to see what the other thing is. So this was done with a generic brand of plaster fast set for casting. I got it from Hobby Lobby. It's so fragile. I mean, I can break it. It's just so brittle. And when I actually dropped it, I went to drop it on the table, just like that. It fractured, just like that. I just set it down, it fractured. This stuff is so solid. It doesn't break easy and it's lightweight, which is what I really need for it to be on a door. So lightweight, really great product. So here's our mold. We've got our mold all set. I've used this a couple times now, so clearly you can see some of the paint has come off. Again, I can't stress enough making sure that you wax. Can you reuse the mold you've made? Oh yeah, I've reused this one like 4 times now. Just working, you know, the Echo is a new product, so I wanted to play with it. I wanted to see what happens if I made it too heavy, if I made it too thin, if I, you know, because sometimes you don't follow directions like me and you just want to test everything out. So I love to test products. I love to push them. And let me show you what happens when you make your product too heavy. This is what happens. Look at this fat baby. So this is when I mixed it way too heavy. It pulled the form. Look at what happened to his body. And this piece is so solid. So this is an expensive mistake, guys. Follow directions. Seriously. It says 1 part water, 3 parts Echo. Try to stick with that. And we're going to get to the rest of that in a second. And you know what? It's so thick, and I intentionally did that, and it's still damp. So you definitely want to make sure you stick with those directions. That's an expensive lesson, but I love learning, so we're okay with that. So here we are. I'm going to move this out of the way. So for your casting, you want to let this go ahead and stay. Let it just sit overnight, at least half a day. If you're in hot climates like I am, it's going to go pretty quick. You'll probably be done in about 4 hours. But for the most part, just stick it there to stay right there. All right, so we're going to go into casting this little bad boy. So you want to stabilize your mold. So I used what's so cool is this stuff is non-toxic. So if you happen to use something that was in your kitchen, it's not the end of the world. Plaster of Paris, do not ever use anything that belongs in your kitchen. P.S. Okay, so here we go. I use containers. I reduce, reuse, recycle, and we eat a lot of yogurt. So clean, always make sure your container is clean. We use cold water. Here I have measured out 1, 2, 3. We're only going to use half a cup here of cold water. Oh, that's a full cup. I don't need that much stuff. Let's do half. You really need less water for this type of plaster cast or Echo cast. Let's call it that. Also, my recommendation, ditch the bag, guys. This bag, you will lose so much product. I'd say put it in a container. It's easier to control. when you pour it out. Otherwise, it's so slick in this bag, it just dumps everywhere. So for a 1/4 cup, I have to use, that's 1, that's 2, and there, that is 3. Just like traditional plaster, you want to let that sit for a second. See all the bubbles? Give it a good smack. You're getting all the air out of it. And traditional plaster, you could let this sit up for 5 minutes, but we're not doing that because this stuff's different. So go ahead, nice clean stick. We're going to stir this up. So the same concept applies while I was testing this out. The more you agitate, the faster you agitate, the faster this bad boy is going to sit. So your working time is minimized the more you mix. And you don't necessarily want that. So it just get it nice and stirred in. Always start with water first. Never mix water into plaster. Bad, bad, bad. And use cold water because the heat will set it quicker. I do want to share something with you that I've learned while casting regular plaster. And that is, if you're doing a big mold like this, it is a good idea. Where did I put it? So much stuff. If you're doing a big, I'll just tell you. If you're doing a big pour, which is, this is considered a pretty big pour, go ahead and take some jute or some cotton, soak it in water, wring the water out. It's still damp, and you're going to do your first pour, which we're going to do right here. I'm going to have it go in. And you really, what you want to do, there we go, with all of this is you want to make sure that you're getting into all of the crevices of his face. All that detail, you don't want to just dump it in there. So we're just very carefully going to fill in all the important details, making sure we're not making any air bubbles. Very nice. Nice and consistent. We don't want big pockets. All right. And so if this was a really big cast, guys, this is where I would recommend sticking in your jute, your fibers, your cotton, and embedding it into your piece like that. And so you can pour off little sections and work in sections. Now, when you're doing a big mold like this, you can pour in layers. Just don't let it become completely dry. And before you pour that next layer, go ahead and wet. You can wet down your surface just a little bit, dampening it. You can use a spray bottle, just making sure that it's wet again, because it's going to want to absorb each other. When you've let it completely dry, it's going to be a pour bond. So you want a nice consistent pour here. And so we're going to finish this guy up. And some advice when you are doing creating your own molds like this, make sure you give yourself enough of a ridge that you can completely pour so it's flat. Does that make sense? All right, so we're going to add a little bit more here. Good. All right. Same thing again. And you know what? That's fine that I didn't make enough for one pour. Remember, we're using that concept of wetting down that surface just a tiny bit. 1, 2. Yeah, this bag. I don't like this bag. I had so much plaster everywhere. It was ridiculous. But I do love this product. I absolutely think I mean, it's so lightweight and it's so durable. So that's that difference with the that resin being a resin gypsum. All right. And so we're going to just, let's wet that down a little bit. It's already starting to a little bit wet. And now we'll finish that pour. Again, if you didn't want to use this much plaster, I would have used the hemp just like that. And voila. And it's so fluid. I was like, oh, this stuff's so fluid. It's not going to set, but it sure does. And see, I didn't give myself enough of a ledge on this one, but there we go. So now my next step was I was worried about how I'm going to stick these guys on this wood and it's not going to pop off, especially because I have to send it to Texas. So here is my way to fix that. We are going to add to that. Well, this is my fault, guys. But we're going to use some cotton fiber. And I'm just going to use this for right now. That's what I got. All right. I'm opening this up. Here we go. I have some sheets, and then we're going to wet it just enough. And now I'm going to add in a back for it to adhere. So I'm going to let this dry just like this. And the reason I'm doing this is this will bond with this piece. And now I have something that I can bond to the board. Does that make sense? Adding that in. This is just regular old cotton fibers here. I do have jute. You could use jute. And I'm just going to let that dry into it. And I'm going to let that here. It's going to become part of it, one whole piece. And that'll be something that'll make bonding easier to that piece of wood. I'm going to move that out of the way. So once we've done all that, now we're going to move here. Here is our panel. And we're going to talk about different ways of bonding certain things. So I know my California people, I know you are not allowed to have a lot of this chemicals that could cause cancer, carcinogens. So are you guys allowed to have Bondo? Because Bondo is a good one. Or any kind of polyurethane, yes. And so, and that's specifically for these big chunky pieces, as I wanted to make sure that this bad boy is not going anywhere. So what I have done with this laminate is I have painted it in one step. And now you're going to take apart from your mold. And I also recommend if you're doing a big mold like this, do it in sections. As you can see, I cut our boy out of the center, a little pooty, and I did him independently. This was stable and flat enough that I could go ahead and pour the entire piece. And then you're going to just slowly pop them out. And it's like putting together a giant puzzle. So here, some of it poured great, some of it were thin, and don't fret, guys. It's okay. Because once we get this onto the board, like this piece is adhered already. I'm going to show you. We're already here. It's already been on this board for over a day now. And I did the fiber backing. And then for this smaller piece, I used a 2-part epoxy resin. So I think you guys can have that in California, I'm pretty sure. Just a two-part epoxy resin. 3M makes a great one. And I adhere it. And so what I'm doing now is I'm just taking some spackling with a paintbrush. And I'm going to fill in the gap. Let's see if you can see it better. See that? Now we're going to fill in the gap so it's not completely sticking out. Now remember, I have to match this piece to the front. So I am going to be painting over this. I'm probably going to do one step and then I will do milk paint. So I'll do a one step either in a gray wood because I've grayed the actual oak on this piece. And so we're just filling in any gaps that you can see. You're just going to go through. And you can take your finger. It's spackling. It's okay. And there you go. We're just filling in any little spots. You could probably even use a cake if you're good at doing frosting and letters on a birthday cake. You could probably use a cake batter. to fill in the gaps, but I'm not a baker. So yeah, it tastes good, but I'm not a baker. Okay. So once that's done and you've filled in all your gaps, now we're going to talk about pieces that maybe broke during your molding or the, yeah, I'm sorry guys. This camera doesn't want to move. Okay. So we're going to talk about if there's pieces missing. So this particular piece on the actual wood molding was missing. What you can do is use modeling paste, and you can go ahead and fill that in. So just a little, take your artist brush and some modeling paste, and you can just slowly go ahead and add the detail in. But this piece isn't glued down just yet, so I don't really want to do that. But you can do that with the joints to go in with modeling paste and fill in your joints, any missing pieces. And it's going to be a slow go with the modeling paste. You're going to have to build your surface up over time. And then, and another trick you could do too is hot glue. If you do, and you don't want to wait for your modeling paste, you could do create a ridge with that hot glue and then come over with either, you could do the echo and just make it thick, or you could do modeling paste and then make that connection. So this stuff is really neat. It's so light. I am talking about this guy he weighs about 3 pounds. With plaster of Paris, he weighed over 5 pounds. So when we're talking about weight and we're having to ship pieces, and maybe you're making artwork or doing a faux bois paneling and adding in pooties and angels and cherubs and everything, the weight is so different, and the detail that I was able to get with this echo powder is amazing. I also found that it's easily, you can easily trim it. So I'm going to use, don't do this at home, guys. Very dangerous. But you could easily carve this out. He's got a gobbler on his neck. And it's not, like when I did this with the plaster, it just fractured. So I am able to really carve this echo powder, which is so stinking cool, which I really liked. So anyway, but this stuff's really neat. It's lightweight. It's versatile. I have found that I tested a bunch of adhesives, and the plaster of Paris popped off on every single time. And this stuff, I think because of the resin fiber, doesn't pop off like the plaster of Paris. Sorry, new camera neck. But so lightweight material. Make sure you clean your tools after you're done. This stuff will stick. Trying to think if there's anything else. You could, these are paintable, very easily painted, so this will transition nicely. You can see updates on this piece. It is massive, so I have a lot of work ahead of me, and it was a lot of trial and error. Like I don't know what I was thinking when I did this one. This is that plaster that I said was garbage, and look, it's just fracturing all over the place. So, oop, there we go. Can you see that? Yeah, it's just so brittle. And so I'm gonna have to cast that again. So don't make the mistakes I admit I made. The echo powder, follow the directions. It's that 3-to-1. The faster you agitate, the faster it's gonna set. Perhaps, if you're doing a big cast, go ahead and add in some fiber, and it's already solidifying. So cool. Make your own molds. The sky's the limit, guys. And this stuff is great for intaglias. Like if you're doing encaustic, this is great stuff. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. You can tint this, but I wasn't clever enough there. So, but if you have any questions, please ask, and I'd love to help you out. Again, make your own molds, have fun with it, and let that let the echo powder sit overnight. You want to make sure it's not wet to the touch, because if it's wet to the touch, you're going to deform. And don't pour it too heavy, because you can end up with a real fat boy instead of an angel. But thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you guys next month. Take care. Bye. If I can end.